Hello, welcome to. Oh, sorry. Hey, what's up, rBeatz fam? This is Greazy Keyz, organist for your Charlotte Checkers. Happy to be here for another session of rBeatz sessions with a good friend, Dan Hood, who is a local musician, composer, sideman in the Charlotte music scene. I'm just thrilled to have you here, Dan. Thanks for being here.
Well, yeah, thanks for asking me, man. It's a good opportunity. It's fun.
Thrilled to have you here to talk about yourself, your background, your music, some things you got going on stage, off stage, behind the scenes. I think you're a real critical player in our musical community here. I'm just thrilled to have you here.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks for sure.
Very cool. So, you were like one of the quintessential elements of our music scene, being a guitarist for several local bands, regional bands, touring bands, recording sessions. So, tell us about what are your inspirations? Like, what initially inspired you to kind of pursue your career in music?
Initially, my older brother did. He's 10 years older than I am, and he played guitar and different horns and that sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
So that's where I started. I started playing piano and trumpet, and then
I never knew that.
Yeah, and then my older brother handed me his old acoustic guitar, which I still have. That was a gift to him in the late 60s. And so then I started playing, and then I remembered that we were storing his electric guitar. And so I started digging around in the house and found the electric guitar, which is that blue Strat that I have.
Amazing.
So I've had that guitar for 30 years now.
30-year guitar.
Insane.
Wow, that is insane.
Yeah.
That's wild. Crazy how time flies, huh, when you're having fun. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, music was never I didn't think of it as a career option. And so, but I was like, I'll minor in it in college, will be fun. And played my first professional gig at 19 when I was in college for the Singing Christmas Tree.
Amazing.
So that was my exposure to that whole world.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, Dr. Daly was conducting, and he was one of my professors at UNCC. So
UNCC.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it was cool.
So that was your first gig, and obviously you've kind of created your own path, your own career here, not only as a musician but as a sound designer, right?
Yeah, sound design, composing, audio engineer these days.
Audio engineering, yeah. So tell us about what you're currently working on.
Music wise,
in the studio, Ground Crew Studio, which is an incredible institution that you're part of.
Yeah. Ground Crew Sound's been in Charlotte for 25 years. I've been there for about 6, and we do audio post-production, commercial audio post-production, it's a technical term. So we do everything from recording your local health system spots, that kind of thing. Like we do spots for Novant Health and Atrium and all of them around the country, to be honest with you. There are a lot of them around the country. To ADR for film and TV, where we replace dialogue that's in TV shows and movies.
Amazing.
So we get to meet and hang with a lot of actors pretty regularly, which is fun. And then music wise, I'm playing with a band called the Blue Dogs out of Charleston. I've been with them for about 10 years, and then just playing with pretty much anybody that calls me,
right.
Just solo gigs, different places. And I play with Chad Mears here in town, Leisure McCorkle gig coming up. And just kind of pretty much whoever.
Yeah, I kind of relate with that. With people ask me, "Hey, Greazy, what's your band up to? When you're not at the Checkers?" And I'm always like, "Well, it depends on what week.
Yeah, exactly.
What band are you talking about?"
Yeah.
So, whenever you decided to pursue music, I mean, what was the catalyst for that? Like when you finally said, you started out. Well, I didn't really think of it as a career, but what was the moment that you decided, yeah, this is what I want to do, and how I want to go about it?
It was really my first band. Honestly, it was through the church that I was working in and had gone to when I was young. And we formed this band and recorded our first record when I was 20. We released it when I was 21, and ended up working with a producer who ended up being kind of a big time producer in that genre, but he was from this area. And so during that process, when I was in the studio recording and that kind of thing, it was in the studio where I was like, this is it right here. This is what I want to do. So doing studio work in particular was always kind of my mindset. Mm-hmm. And then I met our late friend Chris Gargis.
Yes.
Shortly after that, when I was 21, just like 6 months after that other record came out, and then played on the Static record.
Right.
And just with him, and it was sort of my audition to play in Static was a session with me and Chris playing on their record, which was hilarious.
Interesting.
And so so that's when it kind of started. So I'd only been playing guitar for like 4 years really, and I'd already done 2 studio projects, and then this was like, this is where I want to be, just playing in the studio.
Playing in the studio, right?
Yeah, and doing the thing.
Picking up gigs.
Yep. Yeah.
I love that.
So it's cool.
So you do a little bit of songwriting yourself, right?
Yeah, a little bit, and some producing. I haven't done as much of my own stuff the last probably 10 or 15 years as before.
Right.
But the sideman role just kind of fit me well.
Right.
Because I could be the lead guitar player, and that was always fun.
Well, I'm thrilled to say that a little bit later on in the session, we're going to have an exclusive performance of one of your original songs. So
yes.
Unreleased. So we are thrilled to be a part of that. And I'll be thrilled to kind of accompany you on your awesome song. So Dan, we're thrilled to have you in here for that.
Yeah.
So when you're working and you're playing, what's your approach when you're collaborating with other musicians? Like, do you have a method, or you just kind of go with the flow? Like, describe like whenever you're like taking on, say, another sideman gig, approaching someone else's songs. Tell us about your process.
I would say I first listen to the songwriter and kind of see what they're trying to do direction wise, that kind of thing. What's their intent with their delivery, kind of the feel behind each song,
right?
And then try and complement that.
Right.
There's other things I think of technically, like if I'm backing up a female artist, or
right.
I played in a country group that had 3 female lead singers, and they were amazing. So the whole idea is to stay out of their way,
right? And
so you choose parts and you choose sounds and that kind of thing that support what they're doing and stay out of their way,
right?
And then you get a bigger sound. My whole thing has always been the sum of the parts should be greater than each individual part.
Yes.
And that's how it works in the studio as well.
Yes.
So, that and just trying, leaving space, there's nothing wrong with space.
Yeah, that's something I've learned too. When, like I said, when I'm recording, keyboard parts or guitar parts, it's more about the tone. Like the tone of their instrument really goes a long way without all the notes.
Yep.
So,
yeah, it's very true. Yeah, and you can tell. That's why a lot of guitar players have different guitars. That's one of the reasons I have a lot of different guitars.
Each one sounds different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and honestly, it's for electric guitars. It's a mid-range thing for me.
Right.
But amps have the same kind of effect. Different amps and different. Whatever. They all occupy a different space sonically and in the frequency spectrum. So you try and choose what you're going to use based on that, on what the song needs.
You just got to have a really good ear, huh?
Yeah, basically,
right.
Yeah. And so,
that's really cool. So what advice would you give, say, an aspiring musician coming up in today's world of musicians and, singer-songwriters and, or even someone who just wants to work as a side person? What advice would you give them?
I'd say always be listening. And when you're younger, I think you just don't say no. I mean, you just take anything and every opportunity that you can get to play, and not be afraid to be terrible.
Right.
Like early on, there's some things that I kind of listen back to sometimes. I'm like, wow, okay, that was a choice.
That was a choice.
and you don't know, because you're trying to be the next whatever,
Right.
And then I would say to pursue authentically being yourself as best you can.
Right.
I know I struggled with, I wanted to be all these different things in different projects. And then in that pursuit of all these different things and sounds, I kind of found my voice,
Right.
But I would say that your voice is important. And so, be mindful of that and not try and fit in some other box somewhere.
Right. That's a very similar approach that I take, is like, if you strive to be the best musician, then most likely you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Right. So, or you're going to be, your feelings are going to get hurt because you're going to get outplayed by someone else. And that could be anybody. It could be a child. It doesn't have to necessarily be another musician who same age. So, I think having your own voice and being confident in your own voice, to me, is a very strong motivation to keep playing, because I feel confident in my own voice.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a very wise words and something that I've learned myself. So, but when talking about that, when you're first starting out and sort of, finding your roles, who are some of your inspirations? Like, who are the musicians that really you aspire to be like at a certain point before you found your own voice, or who even just inspired you to play music?
My first record that I listened to and really wanted to play was Eric Clapton's Unplugged record.
Yes, that is a fantastic record.
Yeah. And so all those acoustic parts, I was given the tab book for Christmas and the VHS by, I think my aunt gave me that. And so I would literally watch the VHS, look at the music, and then be like, okay, all right, I can do that. And then so I'll start to that's how I begun to develop. So Clapton was really big up front. Right. Jimmy Page, obviously, and then as I started doing the jazz funk stuff, Jeff Beck,
yes,
and Schofield, and that's when I started to get more into the educated musician role, I guess you could say.
Right.
So those were the earlier influences, and then kind of as I've progressed, I think Mike Campbell from Tom Petty and Heartbreakers is the guy in terms of sonically and choosing parts.
That's right.
All that kind of stuff.
Right.
And just playing the right thing at the right time.
If you think of
so many,
if you think of parts, that Mike Campbell comes to mind as like iconic parts who honestly are for most guitarists are probably pretty simple to play.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, they are. But a lot of times simple, and not all the time, but simple is the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
I had a fun session where I was the only session musician for a songwriter, and so I played everything, bass, and I was playing a snare drum part. I was playing bass, electric guitar, acoustic guitar,
everything with strings. Dan Hood,
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I sat down to play a snare drum part, and I played this like intricate little pattern on the snare drum, and Chris was on it, and he starts laughing. He hits the button. He's like, "Well, now that you got that out of your system," he's like, "Just play it straight." And I was like, "Oh, okay, right on, thanks."
Now that you've had your fun,
yeah, exactly.
Let's do it for real this time.
Yeah, let's do it for real this time.
Right.
And it was fun. We were both laughing because he was right. It did not need everything that I was doing. Nothing that I did supported the song in any way. It was just like, I can do this.
Yeah. Right.
And so, I mean,
kind of have to put your ego aside, right? A lot of times. And like you said, play for the song, what best fits for that particular song and that particular songwriter.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Right. Yeah. I would say early on too, Stevie Ray Vaughan was pretty big. For me, at being because I only had a Strat for a long time.
Interesting,
and
the
then
blue
I had
Strat.
Somebody on a gig who was like, "Man, you sound just like Stevie Ray Vaughan," and I was like, "Okay, I got to change that."
Interesting,
I wanted to sound
that was
like
enough
me.
to make you like, "Hey, I want to try something different."
Yep.
Right on.
And that's when I started getting into some different amps and guitars and that kind of thing.
Very cool. So obviously, you're a very busy, very successful musician here in the Charlotte music scene, and so I know next Friday night, you're playing at the Visualite Theater.
Yeah, with you, yeah.
Yep, myself, and supporting Leisure McCorkle, who's a good dear friend of rBeatz. He's been a guest here a few times and
cool.
does things for us as well. We're thrilled to back up Leisure at his show coming up at the Visualite Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And then the very next night, you're at the Neighborhood Theater.
Yeah,
correct?
The Neighborhood Theater, playing with Chad Mears.
Chad Mears, who we both had
songwriter.
Yep, we both had an opportunity to play with him, but you have really, I think, kind of stepped into a really great supportive role with him as far as like, recording and putting the band together. And
James Brock initially put the band together.
Right,
and then Chad was just like, "What can I do for gigs?" And then just with we're opening for Craven Mellon, and so Craven Mellon's tied into the Blue Dogs family, and so Jimbo and I were talking. I was like, "Man, you got to hear this guy Chad." And so now this is the second or third opening slot that he's done for them. So
it's fantastic.
So it's great. So I like connecting people,
right?
And so it's good.
Really cool community. So what else is coming up? Not only are you supporting guys, but you play solo. Do you have any solo gigs coming up?
I do, yeah. Playing tonight at Cordial, actually right around the corner from here, on top of the Marriott over here, AC Hotel or something like that.
Right on.
So, and then there again on June 20th. Let's see. I think we have a private event later in the month. And then the Blue Dogs have a run at the very end of the month, playing Smith's Old Bar in Atlanta, and then Johnson City, Tennessee at the Down Home.
Very cool.
So that'll be fun. Nice little run with those guys.
So with your work with Ground Crew Studio, do you have any fun stories of any movie stars, anything coming in and doing anything quirky?
Yeah. To me, like those folks, they are like anybody else, really,
Sure.
And so, the one that was well, there's a couple that have been pretty fun, but one in particular was Trace Adkins. Trace Adkins, the country singer, came in
Yes.
to record some spots for Firestone.
Interesting.
And I was his engineer, and so he had his people. He was in town doing a show, and so he had these people sitting around the conference room table, and we're just chatting. You know, they were running a little bit behind the other studio that we were connecting with. And so then I didn't realize how tall he was.
Yeah.
And so there's a picture floating around on the Ground Crew Instagram somewhere, and he's 6'6".
Wow.
He is a big dude, and
he has like a low voice. Is that correct?
Yeah.
He's got
big low. Yeah. Come on now to Firestone Tires or whatever. You know, that was that kind of thing. You know,
I want my baby back.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so that was a fun story. Let's see. The only time I was like really sort of starstruck kind of thing was several years ago. Felicia Rashad came in.
Oh,
and
wow.
and we worked on This Is Us. And so another situation where they were running behind and I was the second engineer. So I just went out and sat with her and talked with her for 10 or 15 minutes. And she was like the kindest, sweetest person. And, you know, and that was pretty wild. But I was literally starstruck because I grew up, you know, watching those shows that she was in, you know, Cosby Show and all that stuff.
Yes.
And so, and you're like, I'm sitting here with Felicia Rashad. This is crazy, you know? And, you know, we're just talking and hanging out, you know?
Small talk.
So, yeah.
Love that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's fun, you know, and there's ton of stories like that. There's a lot of actors that live in this area and are moving to this area.
Interesting.
Because the cost of living so much different in California.
Right. Yeah, sure. That makes sense.
Yep. And so, yeah. So yeah, it's fun. The different shows. Worked on Disney movies with different people. And stuff,
Oh
so
man,
cool.
Disney.
Yeah. See, one of the only times my name has actually been in the credits of a movie was a Disney movie called Hollywood Stargirl. So
that's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Very cool. So yeah, you keep pretty busy on your own and with other bands, but where could people find you online if they want to look at more information about you, or maybe look at booking you, or just follow along with what you got going on?
Yeah, Instagram is definitely the best place for that. That's where I tend to post everything, and all that pushes out to Facebook and stuff. And that's Dan Hood Music is my handle on there. And
Very
so
cool.
Yeah.
So can you talk about your songwriting for a little bit? So we're going to have you play a song for us, one of your original songs. So can you discuss some of the themes or messages that you aim to convey in your original music? Is there any sort of inspiration that you draw from, or?
I mean, honestly, life really, like songwriting is a weird thing for me. Like this particular song I wrote about 9 years ago,
right?
And I just never released it because you know, life changes, and so I had to rewrite the second verse, and I would say that's kind of a big theme, like in my songwriting in general. Like I always get first verse is cool, no problem. Chorus is great. Second verse is always the worst.
That's the tricky part.
Yes, like I don't know what to do,
right?
You know, and so yeah, so I'd say, you know, just kind of trying to make something that makes sense, you know, and conveys an idea or an experience or something like that. You know, and it's really kind of what I'm feeling. You know, I'm looking forward to getting more back into my own songwriting.
Right.
The last several years I've been producing more for other artists,
right,
and working with them, and so now it's time to kind of get back to my thing a little bit.
Yeah, a local songwriter, Mike Strauss, one day told me just a great perception or approach for songwriting is actually taking a certain subject and looking at it from different perspectives. You know, because for me, you know, again, I'm much like you, where I'm not focused so much as a songwriter in my own art, but when I do, I tend to write about a certain subject, finish a song, and then move on and try to think of a totally different subject.
Yeah.
But when Mike told me that, I was like, that kind of blew my mind. I was like, yeah, wow, what if you write about the same subject, but just try different perspectives?
Yeah.
I mean, that to me was kind of neat. You know, I haven't applied it much in my life, but you know, I just thought that was really good advice.
Rick Spreitzer?
Yes.
Yeah, so Rick has a great statement of people who struggle with songwriting, and he'll chuckle and be like, so you're still writing about yourself then?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's, you know, being a songwriter, a consistent songwriter is a lot about observation.
Yes.
And then translating those observations to songs. You know, and that really makes a lot of sense. You know, a friend of mine writes in Nashville for a big publishing company, and all his songs are just that. There's observations on life and on other people, and then it kind of crisscrosses with, you know, his own life and his own story. So
very cool. We got a few minutes left here. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors. You're listening to rBeatz.com, rBeatz session with Greazy Keyz. I got my good friend Dan Hood in the studio here talking about his career as a musician in Charlotte, and he's going to play a song for us, an original song, in just a few moments. You have anything else you'd like to add on your own that I haven't talked to you about yet?
Not really. I mean, I'm just grateful to be still at it.
Yeah.
Like I have some friends that are in their 70s that are still playing and performing, and
That's inspiring.
That's inspiring. The older you get, you start to feel a little disconnected from things, and so just because you're just focused on your own thing. So,
right.
I'm excited to see next steps, whatever it is.
I've kind of felt that way too. I've been very blessed, to develop my career as Greazy Keyz, and then also being the sideman for many a project, but then also to kind of reconnect with some of the younger bands in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Are there any newer bands that you've heard of or worked with that you're excited about, that sort of, help give you hope?
Yeah. Honestly, one in particular, I'm a little biased because I work with him and he was a guitar student of mine at one point, but it's a band called Guitarist.
Yes.
And they've done, I guess, 3 shows in the Charlotte area, and the songwriting is really fantastic and the parts are really great. The keyboard player in particular has a degree from Queens.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
Great singer too. And so that band is they're really going to do something. So check out Guitarist.
It's fantastic.
They have a fantastic logo too, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Guitarist. I love the name.
Yeah, they had a friend of theirs design this robot guy, and it's a cassette head and this robot body, and it's really great. So kind of indie rock kind of thing.
Very cool. Again, anything else you'd like to add before we transition into some live performance?
I don't know. I mean, I think the big thing is, for anybody that's out there listening or watching is, go out and see music,
Yes.
and hear music and do things to help other artists. Sometimes the best thing to do is, posting a video on your story and tagging the artist in it, just a something that's easy and free to do.
Right.
Or buying their merch if they have it, that kind of thing.
Right.
But I think that's the big thing. That's one thing I think Charlotte in general kind of is weak on, to put it nicely.
Right.
Is sometimes the crowds can be a little interesting. So, we play in a lot of different towns.
Yes.
You get spoiled. And so, like, I've played some really big stages for really big crowds, and then you come back and play a small space, and it's just kind of like, wow, Charlotte's a big difference. So, and there is a really great music community and music listening community.
Yes.
And so, I don't mean to disparage that, but in general, it's good to get out there and support, people doing the thing.
Absolutely. Please, everyone, get out there and enjoy some live music locally here, especially if you're in the Charlotte, Mecklenburg area. There's a lot of really cool venues here, and obviously a lot of great musicians and great bands to check out.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think people are really missing out on the talent level that's in Charlotte. There's so many good players in town.
Don't sleep on Charlotte, folks.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, talking about Instagram and things like that now with technology, what is your take on, AI and all that kind of stuff? Like, do you have an opinion on the
AI is scary.
It is kind of scary.
Yeah, and especially in my line of work doing audio post-production.
Yeah.
The bottom part of the voiceover industry, the bottom 20% or so, is going to go away real soon.
Wow.
Because the AI technology is that good.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of voiceover artists who will not allow companies to clone their voice and use it in AI because that's a thing.
Yeah.
Like they want to pay you, not that much money to use your voice in perpetuity in an AI engine.
Amazing.
And so, a lot of artists are like, early on, oh, okay, whatever. But now people are like,
Right.
And so, and then from a songwriter standpoint, we were talking the other day, I think you can type in prompts into particular AI things, and you can get 2 versions of a song with your lyrics, and it's done, fully produced. Yikes. And you listen to it and it sounds like pop radio.
Right.
And you're like, okay.
Yeah. I saw a meme literally today. It said something like, I want AI to wash my dishes and clean my house while I do art and music, not the other way around.
Yeah.
I don't want AI doing art and music while I have to do dishes.
Right.
I'm like, there you go. Where's that? We want these. Where's your, automatic dish loader?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Instead of my automatic songwriter.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
Yeah. It's a little scary, but I honestly think what's going to happen is if you get something that is so much the same all the time.
Yes.
That people that need and want that type of art in their life are going to look for it elsewhere.
Right.
And so, so I think maybe we might see a little bit of an uptick in more lo-fi things, live type performances that are maybe a little bit imperfect. Because if you get so used to hearing all that pop radio stuff that's AI generated or even auto-tune generated, recorded in the studio, but fixed, as it were. I think that can get fatiguing, and so, because there's not a ton of feeling in it, or if any, well, definitely not with AI.
I know I can say I see that directly, that correlation with my experience playing live music at sporting events. Being an organist, people really connect having a live musician there. Yeah, more than having a DJ, even if they think I am the DJ. Right. And I'll tell them, no, I'm the organist. But yeah, it's amazing to see people really yearn for that connection with the live musician that I think is more or less subconscious nowadays. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. I mean, you think early movies and stuff like that. Right. They had a live musician playing a lot of those scores.
Scoring that thing.
Yeah. And it's really, I think that's really cool. Well, so hopefully we'll see more of that,
Absolutely. Well, Dan, it's been fantastic to have you in the studio to talk to you today. We're going to take a quick break with a word from our friends and sponsors, and we'll be right back with an original song by Dan Hood. Yeah. Not released. The only place you'll find it here is rBeatz.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Annalise, host of What's Trending Now on rBeatz.com, bringing you this week's DJ World Beats hottest trending bangers on rBeatz Radio and Media Streaming Network. Let's get right into it. First off, Grindhouse Fresh at the Neighborhood Theater on Sunday, June 9th, doors open at 7 p.m. On Thursday, June 14th, bright and early, is 8 a.m. Creative Mornings with Matt Olin. See y'all there at the Hamilton in the NC Music Factory. For those who remember the original rave culture, mark your calendars for Saturday, June 15th, because Rabbit in the Moon is coming to Black Box Theater. Spinning now on our classic rock and country station, USA Heroes Radio, DJ World Beats brings you number 1, Grace Lear, Best Friends for Life, and social media's favorite, Shabuzi, a bar song, Tipsy. To experience some of the fastest rap in today's hip-hop culture, check out Gone and Shaq hitting hard with the new hit Chaos. Also dropping by Gone is Chopper on We Global Radio. Next up, with modern beats and Jamaican roots, J. Calm brings us 4 tracks. Number 1, Call My Name. Number 2, Roleplay. Number 3, Sweet Love. And number 4, Easy. Moving on to rBeatz Radio, our house and EDM stream, we have Tone Shifters and Defunk with Take Me Away featuring 4 Strings, Dagane by Bob Sinclair and Sophia Nazil, Genre Police featuring Aaron Chapa, Lil Sis Nora, and Surreal. That concludes this week's countdown. Be sure to check back for what's trending on the local, national, and international music scene with DJ World Beats' hottest trending bangers.
Welcome back. You're here with Greazy Keyz with rBeatz Sessions. I got my good friend Dan Hood in the studio. Dan, you're going to play us, and I'm going to accompany you on a very original song. So tell us a little bit about your song.
Yeah. This is a song called Deeper Still. I wrote this a long time ago, kind of late summer 2015, and I haven't released it. A lot of life has happened between that time and now. And so, so this is a song that just kind of is honestly really about that. It's about just, life and relationships and moving on, moving forward and moving through and all the things. So,
love it.
Yeah. All right. We ready?
Let's fire it up.
All right, let's try this thing. 2, 3. She's putting on her makeup, pulling on that sundress, the same dress that she wore on our first date. I'm laughing at the table, waiting on the fondue. Conversations always go so late, and the years go by, some real fast and some real slow. But one thing we both know is this: I'm going deeper still, wrapped up in each other like a baby and her mother before birth. I'm going deeper still, drowning in an ocean. I'm bobbing to the surface for air. Just one more breath, deeper still. The bottle's nearly empty, the sweets are nearly all gone. I sign the check and we get up to leave, and the years go by, some real fast and some real slow. But one thing we both know is this: I'm going deeper still, and wrapped up in each other like a baby and her mother before birth. I'm going deeper still, drowning in an ocean, bobbing to the surface for air. Just one more breath, deeper still. And when we're near the end, we'll hold each other's hand and thank God for this life we called our own. Just one more breath, just one more breath, just one more breath. I'm going deeper still, I'm wrapped up in each other like a baby and her mother before birth. I'm going deeper still, drowning in an ocean, bobbing to the surface for air. Just one more breath, deeper still.
Fantastic, Dan. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Please
give a listen to Dan Hood. Find him on Instagram, Dan Hood Music. And we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Thank you.